Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Master Duel video for you, and it's Monday, which of course means it is time once again for one of our weekly viewer specials. If you are new to the channel or series, first of all, welcome, glad to have you here. And second, let me explain what we do here. Every Monday, we showcase replays from you all, the viewers. It's a great way to not only explore some decks, builds, strategies that I don't have time to explore myself, but it's also a great way to come together and cheer each other on as a community, which is honestly my favorite aspect of it. So if you're interested in getting in for the viewer special, just head down to the description below. One of our links there is going to be an invite link to our Discord server, the Hexlexplex. Once you are in there, head down to the Master Duel section. There's a channel called Viewer Special Submissions. There you can drop your 9-digit player ID, and there I can see your publicly saved replays. If you are wanting to show me one specific replay, make sure to also leave your opponent's name, the date and time, a screenshot, just something where I know that that is the game that you want me to see. And that's really all there is to it. So with that out of the way, let's go and take a look at some of your replays. Okay, our first replay comes to us from Lux, who has a going second game where they're going to be on Magistus branded Mitsurugi, and I believe we are going to be going second up against branded Dracotale. Now, unfortunately, because it's a WCQ game, I can't look at either deck lists, but I have seen examples of Magistus branded Mitsurugi before. I think we actually saw one on the viewer special recently, and if I remember right, I remember reading or someone telling me that if you play Magistus, then branded can actually pivot into Mitsurugi through, I believe, one of the Magistus extra deck monsters. I think one of the fusions. Is it this one? Yes, because this allows you to special summon any level 4 spellcaster. Or is that a way to pivot from Mitsurugi into branded? I don't remember. It's one or the other, but either way, we're going second. They're going to begin with normal summon Ecclesia and activate. We're going to respond with the Fuelos. It looks like they've got a 5 mana in response to that. So they will get the 5 mana fusion here without getting a draw. Looks like they're fusing Droll and Lockbird with Dracotale Malulu to, of course, make the Arthelion. Now Fuelos resolves, and Ecclesia will summon out of the deck Fallen of the White Dragon. Arthelion gets to activate here. They're going to add back 5 mana and Droll. Malulu also activating. And they are going to use the Fallen of the White Dragon effect. I think that's worth it, right? Give us... Or, actually, no, they don't give us one more draw, because they can summon from the graveyard. That's right, so they don't have to use a second copy from the deck. So they're going to set the Flame, add back Droll and 5 mana. So they actually have not given us any additional draws. Well, they are now because they're synchro summoning into Ecclesia and the Dark Dragon. This is what I was going to say, though. I think it is worth it to give us one more draw to have the ability to pull Albaz out of the deck. Although now they're using Droll and they're going to activate Rahu. Looks like they are actually just going to go for full combo here. Rahu's going to send Orgola from deck and 5 mana in hand in order to make Golemel. I actually don't know if I would have done the same thing if I was in our opponent's position. Droll and Lockbird is a very powerful hand trap, and I probably would have tried to have saved it for the opponent's turn. Like, yeah, they're basically giving out Droll here to add Golemel and the 2 trap cards, which is, I don't know, not bad. I think it's debatable at the end of the day whether or not it was worth it. Ooh, they do get Cartesia too. Okay, I think it was actually worth it. They got a lot more resources than I thought they would off that Droll. Okay, we're beginning with pre-prep. It's going to let us add the Mitsurugi Mirror and the Futsunomi Tama. We're going to then special summon our own Ecclesia and activate. Looks like they're going to respond with Ecclesia and the Dark Dragon. Now, that does have the ability to pull the Fallen of Albaz out of the deck, potentially. It looks like that's exactly what's happening. They're going to use Albaz to try to fuse with our stuff. As we're going for Fallen of the White Dragon, they're going to use the Albaz effect, sending away the 5 mana. Although, at the very least, we now don't really have to worry about the 5 mana. I also don't know if there's a ton of things for Cartesia to fuse into here anymore, since they don't have any cards left in hand. And they just summoned Chaos Star Source Dragon, which probably would have been one of the better things for Cartesia to summon. Okay, so we're summoning out our own Cartesia here. And then we get to activate the Habakiri effect. We'll tribute the Saji that we summoned from deck, and then we get to activate adding the Mitsurugi Ritual. Next up is our own Fallen of Albaz. Get gets to activate here. We're going to discard Droll and Lockbird. Our opponent's going to chain Dracatail Horn, which is fairly predictable, you know, response there, but we get to chain Cartesia. So, although we don't get to fuse with their monster, we can still use the Albaz as fusion material. And here we can even make Albion, I believe. Yeah, we're going to make Albion. I mean, we could have made a number of things, like Granganol or other cards, but I figured it would probably be Albion here. Now, Albion's going to fuse Cartesia with Saji, and this will be Granganol, right? Yep. Alright, Granganol effect gets to activate. They're going to chain Cartesia. Let's see what they fuse into. Their own Granganol? I don't know what else they could really make here. Oh, Secretarian Dragon. Of course, Dragon plus Spellcaster. That would do it. We're going to send Golden Cloud Beast along, which can just bounce that Secretarian Dragon. We're going to activate Mitsurugi Ritual. They're going to chain Dracatail Flame. We're going to chain the Fallen and the Virtuous on our own copy of Mitsurugi Ritual, which this does actually work, by the way, because Dracatail Flame has to target a face-up spell card on the field and negate its effects. It's like Imperm, but for spells. You don't chain directly to the spell and negate its activation. You negate the effects of a face-up targeted spell card. Again, like Imperm. That was a really slick play by Lux there. Again, using the Fall and the Virtuous to dodge the Flame as you would an Imperm. I don't know if I would have remembered that in the moment, honestly, or thought about it. Now we can Murakumo to board wipe. We're going to activate the Habakiri effect as well. They're going to chain Dracatail Sting, but of course we could simply use the Murakumo effect here if we wanted to. But it looks like we're waiting for the Golemel. There it is. Although, to be fair, if we had responded to Sting, then Golemel couldn't have activated. But now Golemel can't activate later. It's already used that once per turn effect. So I think it was better to do it this way. And yeah, our opponent's going to concede, because at this point, Murakumo board wipes, and we already have lethal on board. Not to mention even more plays. But they lost due, or we won due to time limit, so hopefully they didn't make you sit there too long. But anyway, what a great duel. Thank you so very much for showing that, Lux. Let's go and take a look at our next replay. Okay, the next game is coming to us from Cold Dragon. Cold Dragon has a branded mirror match. I think it's going to be this one here that I am very eager to get into. Yes, Hachi's our opponent's name. I'm really eager to get into this mostly because branded mirror matches are something that I feel I have a really, really tough time navigating. So I'm very eager to see some mirror match gameplay play out here. And then hopefully I can learn a little bit from here. I mean, this has always been one of my favorite parts of not just the viewer special, but having the YouTube channel in general. I feel like I learn as much, if not more, than the comments say that they learn from watching the videos here. So I really just love that we can like help teach each other in that regard. I think that's really, really cool, that sort of a collaborative, us all improving at the game. Okay, so we're going to begin with Cartesia, and they're going to chain Maxi. Cold Dragon did mention in their submission that both players have access to Max C in this game, making it even more high octane and stakes, if you will, than a regular branded mirror match. Now, interestingly, our opponent's going to Ash Blossom the Dogmatica Ecclesia, but I think that's actually a pretty good play on their part. You might see that and think, like, isn't that really weird? Shouldn't they have saved Ash Blossom for a more impactful negate, like Fallen of the White later, or Branded Fusion? But our opponent probably figured that because of the Maxi, we weren't going to do those kinds of plays, and obviously, if the Dogmatic Ecclesia search had gone through, then our opponent would have had to have played through the Fallen of the Virtuous as well. So I think that was actually a good Ash Blossom. Now, obviously, if they had seen our hand, they would have saved it for the Maxi that we had, but looks like they're going to have a Droll and Lockbird instead, so that's pretty much going to be effectively the same thing. And they're chaining their own Branded and High Spirit, so our opponent's actually doing really well here. They are going to reveal the Albion in order to send the Titaniclad and then get the Cartesia here. Now the Droll resolves, and that was the importance, of course, of chaining Branded and High Spirits to the Droll and Lockbird, getting that search before the Droll cut them off. Okay. Now, Incredible Ecclesia is going to pull the Golden Sword Soul out of the deck, and it's going to tune with the Fallen of White in order to summon out the Ecclesia and the Dark Dragon. We do still have this Magnum Hut, so it's not like we can't do anything at all. Alright, Quem's coming out, Golden Sword Soul gets to activate. Here's where we're going to use Magnum Hut. We're going to banish that Incredible Ecclesia. Unfortunately, we will not get the end phase search because of Droll and Lockbird. I believe Droll and Lockbird says until the end of the turn, not just until the end phase. For the rest of this turn, yeah. So, no dice there. Looks like they're going to chain Cartesia. Fusing into Granganol. Yep, here's Granganol. Alright, Granganol's going to activate, sending away the Rindbrum. They get to mill. It's going to be fallen in the high spirits. Now, end phase, they're going to use Titaniclad to pull out Dogmatica Ecclesia. Ecclesia and the Dark Dragon comes back to the field. Blazing Cartesia is added back to hand, and then Albion's going to set Branded Retribution here. So that wasn't terrible as far as, like, main phase 3s go. Okay, here we have not only Albaz, but also Super Poly. And it looks like we're going to immediately start with Albaz, and so we can beat out the Branded Retribution. They put back which ones? Albion and Dragon that Devours. That makes sense. Okay, Tri-Brigade Springen's Kit's going to activate. They're going to chain Rindbrum. Ooh, I thought we were going to use Call By there, but it looks like we're saving it. Okay, Rindbrum summons Albaz, Kit summons Incredible Ecclesia. Now Fallen of Albaz gets to activate, sending Cartesia. They're also going to use their Granganol effect here too. And we are going to because of Super Poly. I was like, oh, why didn't we Call By? It's like, duh, Super Poly requires a discard. So now we can fuse away their whole board to make the Dragon that Devours the Dogma. And of course, because we have an Ecclesia monster, it is a Towers here, meaning that it cannot be affected by any other card effects. We can also put back their Quem and Cartesia, greatly reducing their grind game, and we can even summon out Fallen of the White Dragon from our deck. It's going to pull Ecclesia back out of the graveyard. And then we can Synchro Summon for our own, or is this going to be the Sword Soul monster? Yeah, because we already summoned Ecclesia and the Dark Dragon. This is the Champions of Sword Soul. Now we can add another Cartesia, and then we can activate negating the Proskinian effect, and even destroying it too, before moving to battle phase and just swing in for lethal. That was insane. Wow. That was wild, because our opponent even had the better, like, both players had Max C, but we had to end our turn under their Max C, but they had a Droll and Lockbird for ours, meaning they got to play more cards on their turn, and yet we were still able to bounce back on the turn 3. It really just goes to show that when you're playing a branded mirror match, it's not always like that end phase is so important. I mean, duh, for any branded matchup it is, but especially the mirror match, that's just where so much of the moving pieces are going to be. The turns might look a little unimpressive without the context of the end phase, but that definitely, obviously, hugely changes things. All right, thank you very much, Cold Dragon. We got time for one more replay, so let's finish off with that. Okay, our final game comes to us from Super Dark Aqua, who's actually going to be on Momento, a deck I haven't seen in quite some time. And it looks like we have some new tech. The Dragunity Lord Georgius, or Georgius, however you say it. Actually, this makes a lot of sense because even though we're not on like a Dragunity deck, this card is a pretty generic Link 4, and also it is still a spell trap card, Negate. So this actually is seeing play in the OCG right now in Toon decks as well. So the Dragunity Lord Georgius is actually looking like it might be a Link 4 that we see in a lot of future decks moving forward. But yeah, very eager to check out Momento. Looks like we've also updated with Radiant Typhoon Vision and Following the Virtuous. It makes sense because we already play a lot of quick play spells as part of our deck here. So I love Momento. It's been a long time since I've seen it in action, and I'm really looking forward to this. And it looks like our opponent is going to be on Branded. So we are going to be facing a pretty meta-relevant matchup here. Memento is definitely one of those decks where, like, it's easy to be like, oh, nobody's playing Memento, so it must be bad now. But really, it's just that nobody's playing Memento. It is still a very solid deck in this meta. I believe it is still topping WCQs occasionally over in like the OCG. And I honestly believe it's one of those archetypes where if it got like 1 or 2 really solid cards, it would very easily become meta relevant again. It's like very barely power crept right now. One good piece like Memento Circular would make the deck, I think, meta relevant again. I mean, you could say that about any archetype, but I guess what I'm getting at is that Memento has the pieces to make a good deck. It's just that other decks are better right now. Anyway, this hand looks pretty solid. We're doing some pretty standard Memento initial plays with the Tatsunoto Shigo and all that fun stuff. Looks like they are going to use Fulos in response to the Memento Infusion, but I'm pretty sure Memento can get away only giving them 1 draw, which is probably why we didn't even use the Ash Blossom here, if you'll notice. Okay, so we're going to dump the Tri-Horn Dragon, the Combined Creation, another copy of the Creation King. That, of course, will let us get the Field spell, which we can then activate. The Fusion Graveyard effect gets to activate. We're going to pop the Creation King on board to summon, or rather add the Bone Party. Now the Field spell can summon out Goblin, and then Goblin can activate popping itself in order to mill the... Oh, what is this thing called? Akiran, yep. And now we can summon out the Combined Creation from the graveyard. We're going to set 2 and say go. End phase, we can even set the Fusion again as well. Alright, let's see what they end up doing here. They're going to begin with normal summon Alibur. Of course, we're going to let that resolve. They end up adding the Fallen and the Virtuous. Now we can revive the Creation King. They're going to activate Fallen and the Virtuous. They're going to try to get rid of our Creation King. But of course, we can simply respond by destroying both itself and the Alibur, denying them a fusion material on board. And this will trigger the Field spell as well. And we can also revive the Akiran. One of the great things about Memento is that as it makes disruptive plays on the opponent's turn, it also builds its own board. And also, as the opponent's making plays, the Combined Creation also allows them to... or allows you, rather, to start building a board on their turn. Now, we're going to use Ash Blossom on the Incredible Ecclesia effect, just keeping that Fallen of the White Dragon off the field. Unfortunately for us, they did have a Branded Fusion in hand. If they didn't get lucky and have that Branded Fusion in hand, I think that Ash Blossom would have put in a lot of work, right? Because even if we had waited to negate the Fallen of the White Dragon with the Ash Blossom, they still would have had a Fallen of Albaz on the field for more fusion opportunities. Okay, so here we're going to activate the Bone Party. It's going to let us get the Anguish. Now, Anguish gets to activate as well as the Horned Dragon effect. We can pop our own Akiran as well as 2 of their monsters. They are going to chain with the Mercurier, though, so that gets to negate, unfortunately. Wow, they have a lot of good stuff in hand. But we can add the Mace, and as they go to summon Cartesia, we could even chain the Mace to the Cartesia fusion effect. That's exactly what we're going to do to really mess them up. We're going to take their Rindbrum here, and then we can also use Fallen and the Virtuous, and our opponent's actually going to concede to that. Because here's the thing, and this is something that is good not only against Branded, but fusion decks in general. If you respond to an effect that fusion summons by destroying, banishing, bouncing, taking control, whatever, of the materials that they would use, it doesn't actually negate the effect that fusion summons, which means one of 2 things will happen. One, they'll either have to fuse for something else they didn't want to, and they might even have to use materials they didn't want to, and 2, they might not even be able to fuse into anything at all, effectively negating that effect on top of having already destroyed or banished or whatever your opponent's cards. Here in this case, we not only take the Rindbrum, but we could have popped the Fallen of the White Dragon. Then as Cartesia resolves, the only fusion materials left would have been Cartesia and the Dogmatica Ecclesia, plus whatever else they happen to have in hand. They probably still could have made Granganol. I don't think they made that yet, but obviously that would be way weaker than whatever they wanted to do here. So, excellent gameplay. Thank you very much to not only Super Dark Aqua, but to everybody who submitted. Even if you didn't get featured for this week's viewer special, there is always the next one and the week after. Like I said, we do this every single Monday, and we really couldn't do this series if nobody submitted. So I really do appreciate every single submission. Thank you. But that is going to do it for now. Before I sign out, let's go ahead and move on to our outro so we can thank our YouTube members and Patreon subscribers. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.